Serious, NSFW. People who pledged fraternities or sororities, what were the crazy things that happened? Dressed about 6 pledges in ballerina type clothing. Stuff to get them embarrassed. Handcuffed them all together in a circle facing outwards. Drove them a couple miles from school, and told them they had 2 hours to walk back to campus. It's a rural farm area, so they pretty much just had to walk straight. After about 30 minutes to an hour, the frat brothers drove back to tell them it was a joke and they could get a ride back to campus. Except they couldn't find the group of dudes who were handcuffed together and all wearing pink, who should have been taking the lone road back to campus. Frat brothers drive 4 hours looking for them and never find where they went. Eventually they freak out, fear the worst, and head back to campus. They go to get help with finding the lost pledges in the countryside, only to see all the pledges back and safe. Turns out the pledges walked up to the closest farm, had a good laugh with the farmer, and the farmer drove them back to campus in his pickup. I rushed a fraternity in college and can honestly say that I wasn't hazed. I never had to do anything I was afraid or embarrassed to tell my parents, and it actually was a great experience for me. I did, however, have a friend who rushed SA and had to do some ducked up it. Most notable being put into a dark basement with the rest of his rushing class. The actives stripped them naked, gave them all tweezers, and proceeded to dump containers of sprinkles on the floor. The object was to sort them by color with the only light coming from a strobe light. If they messed up they'd have to do it again until they got it right. I can't believe he did that. Sounds like a nightmare to me. I just drank and had fun all the time with my frat. Cheers. My favorite was when we got all the pledges to be the pieces of a chess set, and we played wizard's chess with them. Everyone loved it. I pledged, got a bid but didn't accept. Although all my friends were PKA, so I got all the benefits with no punishments. Here's one. It was Friday 6 PM, we're playing Halo. Me and 3 brothers. They get a call that they are to meet at the house in 15 minutes. 30 minutes later they're calling me they won't be back until tomorrow. They had to pack 5 deep in an Accord and get a picture with the Washington Monument by tomorrow. We're in Alabama, lol. They had to drive to DC, get a pic and drive back. They called it bonding. Yeah, duck that. While I heard much worse stories from friends in other sororities, mine really had no hazing that I would consider an issue by any means. Just before being accepted, my pledge class was hazed by being rousted out of bed at 2 in the morning, blindfolded, and taken to local park in our night clothes. While there we had to ride the merry-go-round, go down the slide, swing, climb monkey bars, etc. while we had food stuff thrown at us. Jello, hot dogs, cheese in a can, whipped cream, condiments, etc. We had to keep singing various songs, etc. It was in good fun and made a complete mess. At the end, we were hosed off and given towels to dry off, then given sweats with our letters. The only NSFW thing about it was that we all decided that we didn't want to smell of ketchup, mustard, relish, etc. so we immediately all stripped down and put on the sweats. We were taken back to the house for a big breakfast by the time it was all done. The sisters poured several containers of sprinkles onto newspaper, and we had to dip our hands in marshmallow fluff and organize them by color. Around 4 AM, after about 5 hours of this, they told us the whole point of the exercise was that things that belong together, like sisters, can't be separated. This was during our Hell Week. So afterwards we went back to dorms and had to be in the library at 6 AM in formal wear. My sister's friend told me a story that always stuck. She picked her boyfriend from the last day of Hell Week, which is the last week of hazing I think before initiation. He said it wasn't that bad at first. The pledges had to drink a lot of beers. After most of them were feeling pretty buzzed drunk, the actives then put them in a dark room, threw on a strobe light, and brought out a jigsaw puzzle. They weren't allowed to leave until it was finished. It took them 4 hours. I'm assuming you mean hazing. which the only thing Rush's pledges had to do was go camping together for one night, and it was pretty cold. So the guys with itty sleeping bags had to huddle together. Besides it being cold that night, and a few lame team building games, it was pretty fun. That was seriously the closest thing to hazing. We did do a milk chug every year, but it was completely optional and probably only 20% of people, pledges and brothers, did it. The craziest thing that happened was at one of the annual foam parties. We had an outbuilding with the first floor rigged up to fill about 4.5 feet high with foam. About 400 ft2 with a stage for short people. Every year some people get naked and there's always a little sexy time action going on under the bubbles. One year someone threw something that just demolished the bubbles instantly. Something like 70% of the bubbles in one of the rooms were gone in the blink of an eye. Lots of naked people hurrying to cover themselves. We never found out what, but from my investigation, I think it was a mixture of bacon fat and talc in a flour-like consistency. It was unreal how quickly the bubbles all popped. As to why I joined a fraternity: money. Living in the house was cheaper than living on campus, and I didn't have to buy a meal plan if I was in the house. It was just barely cheaper my senior year to move in with some friends into a rental off campus. Also, the particular fraternity I was in had the most amazing house of any fraternity ever. We had an extra 2-story building for parties and we could fill it with foam, and that only one of our outbuildings. My school recently had a frat that was removed for doing weird sexual it and making it public via video someone took on a phone that apparently got into the wrong hands. As a pledge in the early 90s, I got called into the fraternity house at midnight the week after Thanksgiving, and was told, yelled at, that the house had to be decorated before the brothers got up the next morning. We proceeded to tear down every Christmas decoration, climbing trees to take down lights, swiping every wreath and piece of garland we could find within 3 miles, hitting only businesses. We created the biggest elf-looking scene ever in that house, with a fully decorated tree complete with mini bottles over all the lights. We were so proud. Brothers thought it was awesome. However, it took the police one peek through the massive street front windows to put 2 and 2 together. The house was bare of anything Christmas related, Grinch style. Within 10 minutes of the police car stopping in front of the house. By the time the campus police and city police came in, the whole night was nothing but a memory. I wasn't in a frat but had friends that were. 2 funny ones stick out the most. Made all the guys stand in a room naked watching hardcore gay porn. The first person to pop a boner had to eat a donut off the last person to pop one. Every pledge member had to wear jean shorts 1 inch above the knees every day for a month. If they didn't wave and acknowledge a brother they passed, they would have to cut 1 inch off the shorts. That got pretty funny as the month went on. I joined a Reddit fraternity because they were my only good friends in college. Crazy things. Really crazy parties with lots of booze, lots of drugs, and loose morals. I saw a lot of creepy people try to join prey on these parties. For example, this one girl known to be on the easier side was drunk and outside with a pledge smoking. When they finished, he tried to pick her up and take her. He didn't get far because he's a smoker and a pussy, but we kicked him after that. Didn't help that he asked me where to find heroin. I got into a couple fights and standoffs with rival fraternities. Typically on our front porch and typically because they were trying to steal something of ours. Saw brothers throwing fireworks at people from our rooftop. Outside of that, nothing we did was too crazy for what is college. Actives versus pledges case race. To defranzier. Holiday parties. Drinking and music of all sorts. It was definitely fun. Just make sure you don't lose your focus on school. Don't skip out on class or studying.